I think you know where this is going. Asura's Wrath. Now the story follows the tale of Asura, one of the 8 demigods who was betrayed by his own kin after the kidnapping of his daughter and the murder of his wife for their own selfish purposes. During the course of the story, Asura is on a quest for vengeance against those who have betrayed him, all the while dealing with their mutual enemy known as the Goma. Now the gameplay in Asura's Wrath can be pretty much summed up into 3 separate segments. Bullet hell-esque rail shooter segments, quick-time events, a lot of quick-time events, and third-person beat-em-up combat. Now during the course of all 3 of these segments, you fill up something what's known as a burst meter, and you do this by executing certain functions akin to whatever gameplay style you were using at the time. Once you have filled the burst meter, you pull the trigger and you pretty much break off that section of the gameplay and move on to the next section, which progresses the story forward. Now if you couldn't tell by the point of the intro of the video, I freaking loved Asura's Wrath. I had an absolute blast while playing it. But allow me to sum up as to why I enjoyed it so much. Now I have to mention this right off the bat, the combat is absolutely nuts. It is so much fun to do, and it's so intense in terms of how high the stakes can go in terms of what you are fighting and what you are fighting for, but I'll get to the story part later. I mean, there are certain moments in the gameplay that you will be fighting someone on the ground, and all of a sudden, you will be fighting a boss the size of a planet. And that's just the beginning of the game. And you're just thinking to yourself, oh crap, what in the world have I gotten myself into? And you just can't think of it. It's like, there's no way this could get more intense. Oh wait, yes it did. Let me stress this point right now. You hardly ever have a moment to breathe in this game. This game is like a 100% adrenaline rush. If you ever think you have a moment to just sit back and breathe for a moment, you better cherish it while it lasts, because soon after, things are going to get way more intense and you're going to have to push yourself harder than you did before. It is a constant push forward, and it is a satisfying ride through the whole thing. One of the things I found most surprising about Asura's Wrath is the story itself. I found myself completely immersed and sucked into the world of Asura's Wrath, mixing in elements of Hindu and Buddhist mythology. It was all incredibly fascinating, and not to mention making the demigods and all the characters somewhat flawed in a way, or at least the main cast were. And every single character that you run across, or at least the demigods, they all have a certain virtue about them that's meant to take as a moment of reflection, such as hubris, vanity, pride, greed. I mean, any virtue you can think of that would be seen as a detriment to a human person that you can think of, you can relate to. And there's always something like that through the course of the story, including Asura himself, whose undying vengeance and his wrath and his passion to save his daughter and to save someone he cares about. Anyone can relate to something like that, although I'm pretty sure they don't fight someone the size of a planet or willing to go blow up someone the size of a planet to do it. There are so many moments inside of this story that I wish I could just divulge to you right now, but for the sake of not spoiling it, I won't mention what those are. But some of the boss fights are just incredibly memorable, including one of the later boss fights that just make me think, holy crap, it's the anti-spiral from Gurren Lagann. And the soundtrack for this game is absolutely spot on. There are so many memorable tunes in this game that they all fit perfectly, whether it's a quiet moment of reflection, a serious moment of drama, or just a high intense, high pumping adrenaline action. Every tune in this game fits perfectly well, and there's many of them which are memorable. I'm still thinking about them even after weeks of beating this game. Now, personally, I don't see this as an objective point of criticism, but I can understand why someone would bring this up as a point of argument when it comes to maybe something that Asura's Wrath doesn't quite do as well as it could have been, in saying that the gameplay itself may not be the most substantial in the world or the most involving, considering that it is akin to more of an interactive anime than an actual game, considering the amount of QuickTime events, to which I can understand their point. However, I would offer as a counterexample in thinking that, well, since it's not as substantial, it would have to fall under the line of, would you say, minimalistic? Maybe that could be somewhat of a term, and if that is the case, why is it that minimalistic gameplay is a bad thing? I mean, I've said it before in my reviews, in saying that if you do everything well in your game, that should be worth respecting. It doesn't matter if you have a whole bunch of features in your game that are just mediocre. I would rather have a few features that are done to a mere sheen and done perfectly, and I'm sure a lot of gamers with a good taste would agree with me on this, or at least understand where I'm coming from. And so, I can't really agree with a point of criticism that they would bring up, but I understand why they would bring it up. That's just my personal take. I know I sound like I'm raving about it, but I am being 100% honest about it. I would be more than happy to go through Asura's Wrath again. And you can probably guess where I'm going with this rating. Asura's Wrath, you are most definitely worth every penny. So everybody, that is my review of Asura's Wrath. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you have any more requests, please comment below and tell me what you think of this review. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment. I always love hearing from you guys. And until next time, I'm Perry, the One-Armed Legend. You name it, I can play it.